Long before we had the language for trauma, neuroscience, or regulation, the body knew how to shake. Therapeutic tremoring is not exactly something that we learn, but it's something that we remember. When given safety and space, the nervous system, the body, the energy field naturally unwinds through subtle or powerful shaking tremors. To
The
re-
physical movement that happens in TRE, in these neurogenic tremors, is not an effort. It's actually a letting go of effort.
Welcome to the Frequency Files. Thanks for joining us as we explore the vibrations, forms, and creations and mechanisms behind them that inform the nature of existence. Today, we have the joy of speaking with Brisbane based TRE and Reiki practitioner Gabriel Kaszab, who brings not only deep personal experiences but a rich professional background that enables him to hold these beautiful containers for individuals and groups to come home to themselves through the modality of shaking. Gabe, it's amazing to connect with you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Sarah. I look forward to it.
Me too, me too. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, you are a TRE teacher, but you're also so much more than that, and you bring a full depth of experience of your professional, personal, and spiritual life. Can you share a little bit about your experience and what has led you to where you are now?
I think it started as a kid, and I've watched one of
Mm.
your interviews with Maya, I think earlier on, and she mentioned in there that quite often as children we may have certain experiences that shape us, and
Yeah.
certainly I think that is true for me. And I think as a kid I would naturally fall into states of contemplation or meditation, and I didn't know anything about meditation or contemplation or anything like that. I didn't search for it. I didn't look for it. I didn't invite it. It just somehow it naturally would just something would open up, and I would experience like you could say another dimension to this reality, or something deeper than the surface level reality that we normally experience. A lot of the stuff I have no memory of, but when I'm in meditation these days, it kind of sometimes it reminds me, oh, I was there as a kid. Yes, now I remember. That's the place I was in. So I know I had a more experiences than I have a memory of. But
Mm.
meditation now kind of brings that out. One of the experiences I had, I can't really put into words. The insight was that the moment I looked at it, the moment I tried to grasp it, to understand it, to point it to anything, it would disappear immediately. And from meditation now, I understand that, that's the effortless nature of consciousness or reality. It's not something that you can grasp, you can surrender and let go into it, but it's not something that we can capture and
Mm.
even memorize, or it's being, right? It's being in the present moment, but you can't capture the present moment as it is, as it truly is. You can capture maybe in memory a fragment of it, but you cannot capture the fullness of it. And I guess it's not even about capturing it, but just being in it. And that, I guess that's
Mm.
as far as meditation goes, is to have that capacity to constantly let go and to allow things to unfold, to allow consciousness. Maybe pure consciousness, allowing pure consciousness to unfold as it needs to unfold or as it naturally does, rather than through the limited lens of our ego, of our experiences, and so on.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. And you've got a strong affinity with shaking or moving the body as a sort of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but tool or gateway or medicine to help support the integration of mind, body, spirit.
Started meditating maybe in my 30s again, and
Mm.
so when I was a little kid, I guess I fell into these spontaneous states of meditation, and then it maybe by the age of 9 or 10, it died out, as I started going to school, and people thought I was a daydreamer. So they would kind of pull me out of these states of meditation, yank me out, sort of thing. So I guess that kind of died off, but it remained in the background. And then maybe in my 30s, I started looking at meditation again. I actually came across the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that reminded me of an experience I had as a child, which is like, it made a connection. And then I finally realized, this is what I've been missing. This is what I've been looking for, this kind of investigation, this kind of look into consciousness. So I started, looking at meditation, but I was not interested in the body at all. I didn't consider, I was not a yogi, and I didn't do any kind of body practice. So you're saying I've got this affinity with the shaking, which is a somatic practice. It came to me basically. I didn't look for it. I didn't search for it. It's basically one evening I had to get out of bed. I had been meditating at the time, practicing awareness of the breath, awareness of any bodily sensations, awareness of my external environment, just simple awareness. So that was my practice, or one of my practices at the time. But I was not into the body at all, not a yogi or nothing like that. However, I did start to notice in meditation that there was a clarity in the head when I was meditating, and there was an aliveness in the body. So that I started seeing that. So then the body started to subtly become involved in my meditation. It wasn't just getting insights and recognitions and understandings. There was like a point where the body started to feel alive. And I think I was maybe 35 or 36 when I said to myself, wow, for the first time in my life, I'm 36 and I actually feel alive. It's taken me 36 years to actually feel aliveness in the body, So that was a kind of subtle sort of change from just simply meditating for insights and understandings to the felt experience of aliveness, And around that period, I started recognizing that if I brought awareness to the body would naturally reorientate its posture, for example. So I called it natural postural alignment. So I didn't do the postural alignment, just somehow something within the body would naturally and easily realign my posture. And initially I didn't pay much attention to it because I thought, so what, my posture is better, but so what? Later on, I can talk to you about a bit down the track, but later on I re-explored this because I realized there's more to it than just postural alignment. But fortunately, I was lucky that one evening I woke up in the middle of the night and I never get out of bed, but this time I had to get out of bed. I just felt it. So I went in the living room floor. I lay down on the floor and I was not stressed. I was not worried. I was not activated. I was not meditating. I just simply made my way to the floor. I lay down and suddenly I felt this quite intense energy in my feet, heat and energy in the feet. And that kind of energy moved into my legs. And then from the legs, it moved into the upper body. And then my body started shaking, started tremoring. And it didn't last too long. Maybe if it had lasted longer, maybe my mind would have caught on and kind of went, what's going on here? This is a bit strange because totally new experience. I had never, and out of context, there was it's not like I was afraid of anything or, that I was meditating. It was totally spontaneous. So, but I started shaking and I thought that was strange. And then these shakes would come on at random times, odd times, just even walking down the street, suddenly my body would start shaking, and
Wow.
yeah. I was working in Fortitude Valley at the time. I was a videographer and, I would have breaks and go out for a coffee or lunch and my body would start sort of little tremors, little shakes, but it was like pretty obvious to me, maybe not to everyone else around me. And I didn't know what they were. And I stopped a Buddhist monk on the street. I said, hey, have you come across, shaking or in your travels? And she said, oh, I'm sorry, my son, I have no idea what that is. So I thought, did some quick Google search, shaking in meditation, and I couldn't find anything at the time. The monk couldn't tell me anything. So I just kind of concluded, maybe when I'm meditating, extra energy, extra consciousness is flowing in. And as a result of that, any energy or that is not useful is actually being released, being shaken off. I had a model of Kundalini which kind of said the same thing, but I'm not a Kundalini. I'm not someone who studies Kundalini or is really too interested in it, just on a surface level. And I thought maybe it's that, maybe it's Kundalini, and I kind of dismissed it, And for the next 7 years, I would shake pretty much on a daily basis because I was meditating on a daily basis. The shaking became part of my meditation, but I never paid attention to the shaking. I saw it as a byproduct of meditation. So I didn't get engaged or involved with the shaking at all. I just thought my body's doing what it needs to do. It's not hurting me. It's not bothering me in any way. I understood not to poke it, not to play with it, not to kind of direct it in any way or to suppress it, just let it be. And I was lucky whenever I would stop meditating naturally, the shaking would stop as well instantly. So I never engaged with the shaking and I never disengaged. It was just there, really in parallel with my meditation. And that was my focus. Um, Later on, I realized that in the first couple of weeks, the reason I was shaking at odd times was not really odd times at all. It was just moments where I was naturally meditating, taking a break from work, right? My mind was switching off and then the body was releasing. And that's really the mechanism. That's how I understand the shaking today, is that essentially it is when our mind kind of surrenders to some level. And because the mind surrenders, it's not using up energy. And now there's more energy available in the body. And the body will naturally utilize that energy for its for preserving itself and restoring itself back to balance. So it's very intelligent, and it doesn't sort of wait for tomorrow. It just says, okay, I've got the energy, the person is safe, I can release here because there's a lot of pent up stress, anxiety, whatever it might be. Yeah. So 7 years I did that pretty much in in secret in a way. I didn't think to tell anyone about it because I had asked and I didn't get any answers, and I didn't know anyone who was shaking. So I kind of didn't search anymore and I didn't discuss it with anyone. I would come into bed sometimes, she used to watch movies and I used to go and meditate. And sometimes she'd come in mid meditation and my body would be shaking quite intensely. And it's funny, she never said anything, she never questioned it. I just would say, I'm fine, and go on. But I never explained it and we never spoke about it.
Aha.
Yeah.
But you took it further.
Well, I actually started working in mental health support, doing mental health support work. And one of my participants was actually shaking. And I think he was shaking mostly from medication, but also I think
Oh.
he was under so much stress and anxiety and trauma.
Mm.
And he was really open to mindfulness. But I noticed that he would process and paraphrase things back to me in mindfulness terms, and I thought, my God, this guy, he really gets it. Then I
Yeah.
started realizing he's not getting it on a body level. So by chance, I came across a TRE trainer who was actually a friend of mine, Emmeline Duncan, here in Brisbane, and I had known her as a massage therapist and counselor for many years. And one day, having coffee with her, I said, "Hey, do you know anything about shaking and meditation?" And she said, "Yeah, that's TRE, Gab." And I didn't know she was a TRE practitioner. I said, "What the hell is that? What's TRE?" And she explained it to me. And for the listeners here, I'm going to say that even though I had been shaking for 7 years, so you could say, I had quite a bit of experience under my belt with shaking, but listening to someone talk about how it's actually the nervous system down regulating, coming out of fight, flight, freeze into rest and digest, and that it's actually a practice that's going on around the world with, I'm not sure how many people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people doing it, however many there are. It kind of makes you go into it even deeper and you feel even more relaxed about it because you think, aha, this is a natural thing and it's not just happening to me, it's happening to everyone else. So I watched a few videos of TRE online and I instantly recognized the tremor process and I went, yeah, that's what's happening to me. The difference was that I wasn't instigating it, whereas in TRE, you actually have a set of 5 yoga positions, you could say, that bring on the shaking mechanism or the tremor mechanism. So initially, I was skeptical. I thought, well, why play with fire? For me, the shaking is happening naturally. Why instigate it, Because you instigate it, you might start something you wish you hadn't, So I was very cautious, but TRE has an inbuilt safety mechanism as well. They use an intensity of 7 out of 10, and you're constantly aware of the process. So intensity of 7 out of 10 basically means if you get tired, or if you feel any emotions coming up, or if mentally you feel a bit uneasy, any cramping, or if you disassociate, you stop the process straight away. And we're not stopping to run away from the emotions. We're stopping to give ourselves a break. We can rest, re-energize, and then go back into it. So that is called titration. So it's an intelligent way of working with trauma specifically, because we don't want to open up trauma because immediately or in its full capacity, because we're quite likely not capable of handling that trauma. So we would re-traumatize ourselves. So TRE is actually a very respectful and gentle practice if people follow the procedure, and it's about gently letting go. And I see it more as nervous system capacity building rather than trauma work, because you can only do trauma work if you've built up your nervous system capacity anyway. If you haven't got the nervous system capacity, you can't do the trauma work. So yeah, build the nervous system, and then if there is trauma there, then we can gently face it in time, but not pushing through and trying to have a cathartic experience, because it may not be integrated after all, So I looked into TRE and I loved it, and I kind of thought, wow, now I have another way of getting into this beautiful process. I'm not only dependent on meditation. I can instantly get into it. And for me, it took up very quickly. So as soon as I started TRE, then I started exploring more than the 5 initial positions, and I started exploring in different settings and with props. And so I kind of went to town, for 7 years. I was just letting it do its own thing. And I was like, TRE allowed me to fully explore it, and that's a beautiful thing as well, to be able to fully explore it, to engage with it, to look at it. And yeah, so we can do both. We can totally let go, but we can engage with it as well. It's a really beautiful way, a bit of yin and yang.
Mm. It sounds like it's a beautiful modality that can really meet people where they're at, and it's a place to let go of this logical mind, or this striving, or this more is better type thinking.
Yeah, it's often the phrase "stop to smell the roses" comes to me, which is
Mm,
it's a kind of simple phrase, but if you look at the phrase properly, if you stop to smell the roses, you have to stop physically. So, I think the idea is that a person's walking by a bush of roses, for example, and they're not even stopping. They just continue walking and, just go straight past. But here it means to physically stop, and then to mentally stop, and then to allow the scent of the rose and the beauty of the rose to kind of envelop you, sort of thing. So really,
mm,
to appreciate its beauty, you have to fully stop on many levels, thinking, physically, emotionally as well, to fully absorb. And I think that we don't do that in life. We kind of go, go, go. We study, we work, we have projects, we have dreams, we have all sorts of things, growth and development, even trauma work. We've got to do more of this, more of that.
yeah.
And really, we have not learned to stop. And in TRE, it really gives people a very powerful and sort of for most people, it's something that works. It just works somehow. It's just their nervous system that kind of works, and it gives people the opportunity to actually stop in their tracks. So it's not a. I often say TRE is not something. It's not a doing practice. It's a non-doing practice, because really we're stopping, and then we're allowing the body to process. So the physical movement that happens in TRE, in these neurogenic tremors, is not an effort. It's actually a letting go of effort.
Mm.
And I think sometimes people have said to me, "Oh, I already do gym and I do yoga, and I don't want to do something else." And I try and say to them, "Okay, this is the non-doing. This is one thing that you can give yourself, which is a non-doing. It looks like you're doing something because you can see the body moving, but it's actually a non-doing." And it's so refreshing to be able to have that available to us. And we can do that in meditation, but not everyone can meditate because the nervous system is so wired. So they can't sit down and meditate. And quite often people say, oh, I can't even sit down for 5 minutes. That thing doesn't work for me. Meditation doesn't work for me. But TRE offers us, I'm not going to say for everyone because it's not going to work for everyone in the same way. But I found personally TRE just works every single time. It's never failed me in, since I've started TRE, for example, I've never gone into position to shake or tremor and it's failed. It's taken a long time to happen. It kind of happens instantly. Mm-hmm. Of course, with new people, it takes a little bit, but eventually it's just an instant process.
I think the crucial thing to remind all of us is how innate shaking is, It's a mammalian response.
Absolutely. And it's something that really surprised me actually when I did start TRE and I had to do a lot of sessions for the training, for the practice. And one of the sessions with my mum, for example, and after the session, she said, Gab, like my body's been trying to do this for years in the neck area, but I thought I had Parkinson's. So she would suppress it. So she would not let go. So even if you don't meditate and even if you don't do TRE, your body's still trying to release tension from your body. It's a lack of understanding from the individual that they then try and suppress it. And then my dad, who was very much, against all the stuff that I do, meditation and stuff, and he won't touch TRE, but he said, oh, well, he saw my mum shaking in our first session and he said, oh, my body does that as well. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And I quizzed him, when do you experience these process? And he has vertigo, which is stress related as far as I understand. I haven't done research on vertigo, but as far as I know, stress has a lot to do with it. And he imagined that the individual becomes so stressed that eventually they get vertigo, which is really the vertigo is kind of saying, stop whatever you're doing, and the individual doesn't know how to stop or doesn't stop. They ramp themselves up and then the vertigo gets worse. And in my dad's case, it gets so bad that he can't stand up anymore. So he has to lie down. And I recognize that's the point of surrender. So vertigo puts him on his backside, literally. And when he's on his backside and he's surrendered, his body starts shaking, starts tremoring naturally. He hasn't learned it, of course, not through TRE, not through meditation. It's just what the body does. And, and then I said, what happens after that? And he says, well, the vertigo goes away or significantly, dissipates. So the neurogenic tremors, the shaking mechanism is there for us even in accidents. I've spoken with many people who have had car accidents and they said, well, got out of the car and I was shaking on the floor like a leaf, and
yeah.
If they don't understand what it is, they might think they're going into fear or an epileptic fit or something. And sometimes that can happen. Like I think you can experience that, but there's the other side of it as well, which is just the body releasing that shock that people have experienced. I've actually experienced it I had an anxiety attack roughly 12 years ago as well. And part of that anxiety attack was shaking before I knew anything about it. But I had the sense not to stop it. I had the sense to kind of just flow with it because I felt that the anxiety attack was actually a release mechanism as well. So I was fortunate. Not everyone is in that boat, I understand, but I was fortunate to understand this is my release. This is what's the dirty work is being done here, and I could let it be.
That's amazing that you could surrender to it and know that it's, just an unfinished circuit or a survival response that wants to be met, or however we want to phrase it, that it's communication from the body and you're just, without judgment, allowing it to go through its process.
Yeah, a couple of days prior, I was fortunate. I experienced spontaneous peace through meditation and listening to an Eckhart Tolle audiobook. And in that moment of peace, funnily enough, I called it, I referred to it as tensionlessness. That's what I described peace at. And then I realized, oh, that must be peace. Because there was,
yeah.
but initially the words were tensionlessness because there was no physical, mental, or emotional tension in my body whatsoever for the first time in conscious memory, And I thought, oh, that's what peace must be. And then I realized how wrong I was to think that peace was something neutral and something boring, because that's what my mind thought of peace. It's like,
Mm,
someone had offered me peace, I probably would have said, no, give me something else. Peace is just
yeah.
neutral and boring. It showed me that I was a positive thinker at the time, but the positive thinker was masking all my problems. And I realized in this moment of peace that the positive thinker had never, ever given me peace. And I think because of that, it devalued the positive thinker in me, and it kind of collapsed. So,
Mm,
so yeah. And then a few days later, I was having a typical business scenario, which is a little bit challenging. The positive thinker would have swept it under the carpet, but there was no positive thinker there. I experienced my first anxiety attack, and it was pretty intense. It was quite awful on all levels, mental, emotional, and physical. But somehow I remained grounded in the middle of it. It was kind of like a paradox because I was experiencing the awfulness of it all, and it was pretty intense. But at the same time, I was at peace. Not the same calm peace, but kind of I just knew I was okay. And that's
mm,
how I realized, okay, this is the dirty work. This is where I experienced peace a few days earlier, but this is where the dirty work is being sort of aired out. I had a second anxiety attack, but it wasn't as intense and I couldn't be with it. And I was quite upset that I couldn't be with my anxiety attack because I knew it was an opportunity to release stuff, you know? Um, yeah. But yeah, it is a release, a natural release.
mm. Yeah, yeah. And with that strong phenomena that comes through the body that brings on the shaking, can you talk about that at a sort of structural level of what happens and why it happens?
Yeah, I think it's not always a strong phenomena, actually.
Mm,
It can be a very, very subtle phenomena. Um, and most people, I think, who try TRE initially, and myself included, we look at the the tremors themselves because they're quite obvious. So you bring your legs in a certain position, and eventually the tremors start. But the phenomena is actually quite subtle and almost imperceivable or imperceptible. And that's
okay.
the I call it an influx of energy flowing in, a very
Uh-huh.
gentle influx of energy going in. And it's that energy that flows into the body that then does the shaking. So the shaking really is a byproduct. But first it's the energy flows into the body. And it's very nice energy, I think. Of course, that energy can come in if there is fear as well, which can be like a strong reaction. But in TRE and in the way I experience it through meditation, you can sense it's a global kind of energy pervading the body. So if you start to tune into that, and it's difficult to tune into that energy because the shaking is stronger and it's more obvious. And then people pay attention to that. But really, I think, as I mentioned before, when we meditate, um, the energy from the head that's used up to do thinking and to rationalize, to judge, to whatever, is no longer used up in the head, and that energy is now has the opportunity to be in the body. So it's an openness.
Mm,
So even an openness, I guess, the mind is no longer clinging on so much in meditation or in the state of resting, uh, mentally resting, and then this energy can flow in. So there's an openness of the body because the mind is not strangulating it momentarily. So then naturally energy flows in and it releases stuck energy or emotions, however you want to look at it. It could be mental patterns, could be memories, could be traumas. Trauma usually takes longer to get to, depending on the individual. Some individuals access their trauma straight away because it's already bubbling at the surface level. So we have to be careful with that. But for most individuals, it takes a while to get down to the deeper layers of trauma because they're very deeply buried. Uh, but people who've done somatic work and meditation, they can go into that a lot quicker because they're
mm,
already open to it. Yeah. But for me, the energy is actually really beautiful. And a lot of the work, I mean, TRE itself was born out of the need to help people with trauma. So a lot of focus, especially in the beginning, was around trauma. But that's not all TRE is about. TRE is actually about integration, expansion, evolution, transmutation as well. So I feel that there's that aspect of it as well. So even if you don't have trauma in the body, you can still practice TRE because it has so many other facets to it, not just the release of tension and trauma. So I ended up, when I started TRE, I think 4 or 5 years ago, shaking for about 10 hours on and off in the day. And I think some people might look at that and think, oh my God, this guy's crazy. He's gone too far. He's done too much. But I didn't actually instigate it. Again, I kind of just flew with it. And on reflection, I think that I was going past the trauma and more into integration and expansion sort of work. And my body must have needed that, you know. So I wasn't tired from it or anything. And it wasn't unpleasant at all. It was actually very pleasurable. So I don't recommend that to people who start off TRE, by the way. You have to take it very gently, but I'm just highlighting here that it's not all about trauma work. That energy is a beautiful energy that's coming through. And yes, if there's a lot of trauma there, it needs to sort of clean it up, to prepare the body for joy, really, for that, for peace. Actually, you know, I think it's, you know, that it's preparing us for that tensionlessness, for peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, uh, and a beautiful thing that I've noticed is that people don't have to clear their body 100% of trauma and tension to experience peace or joy. So that's something really remarkable, I think, because our model, I think our model in the world is that I have to fix everything before I can get my cookie or my dinner or this or that or the other, you know. And it's like, okay, I have to be fully healed and fully whatever before I can experience my natural state, which is, you know, peace, awareness, consciousness, bliss, you know. But I've noticed that that's not the case. We can experience those states along the way. And it's actually those states that are fueling the trauma work anyway. It's what's powering, you know, the cleanup job anyway. So it's they're never separate. I think we may not consciously pick them up, but that joy or peace is never separate. It's actually the one that's doing the work. It's the one that's doing the tremor work or the release work, and because it's an intelligence, it's a very deep intelligence. Energy frequency is intelligence as well. It's not just like energy from, you know, electrical energy that goes to the light bulb. This energy is intelligence itself, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And it's not a one or the other, as you said, you know, it's a both. And what I'm hearing as well is that it's about optimum health and well-being, and the peace is an intrinsic part of that.
Yeah, it's even deeper than health, to be honest, because eventually it's, you know, the deeper spiritual aspect, the
Sure.
non-eternal. So, and sometimes with health, you know, people can get stuck on doing all the health work, you know, all the trauma and all the health work, and like I mentioned, we can still enjoy life as well. We still need to do the work too. Of course, we can't ignore
Yeah.
that. But I think one of the traps that I'm trying to be careful of is to not focus only on trauma work myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
because then that can be very tiring and very depleting, sort of. Uh, yeah,
And I think you mentioned before, you know, the integration, even just everyday life, like, you know, integrating that and integrating ourselves on all layers as we journey through life, and letting our bodies sort of catch up, our bodies and our subtle bodies and our energy fields recombobulate.
of course, yeah.
Gabe, what's something that you're really exploring at the moment that you're finding interesting?
The deeper self. So, you know,
Yeah.
which it's difficult looking at different teachers and different masters
Mm,
to understand the linguistics of things, because there's consciousness and awareness, you know, and sometimes consciousness is labeled as awareness and vice versa. And but uh, I feel that awareness is that primary field. It's and yeah, I mean, we can call it emptiness, you know, but it's not quite empty. It's because emptiness can be a scary word, you know. I heard the term psychological emptiness, which is really beautiful.
Mm.
And it's the emptiness or formlessness of awareness. But within that, there is infinite consciousness or infinite potentiality, you know, the energy to manifest, to create. I think one of the questions you had was consciousness creation and frequency.
Yeah.
So I feel that consciousness, in a way, is the infinite potentiality, which is a creative potentiality, you know, the potentiality to create the entire universe and human beings with all our characters and all our, you know, different likes and dislikes and, yeah, different potentials. And it's obviously done through frequency, which is vibration. To me, frequency is vibration. Uh, but one of the experiences I had as a kid was that even matter needs awareness. It cannot exist with awareness. So awareness is actually prior to that, prior to consciousness
Yes.
somehow. So
Yeah.
that's the space that I'm into, exploring that and going back to my roots as a child. And one of the experiences I had as a child, I think when I used to close my eyes, I would always see psychedelic patterns. Or most of the times I would see
Oh.
psychedelic patterns, you know. And I did ask a girl once if she what colors she saw when she closed her eyes, and she gave me a really funny look, which kind of meant, "What on earth are you talking about?" So I kind of went, "Okay, don't ask that question again of anyone." But one night, actually, I think I must have been, you know, in my meditative contemplative state, and I closed my eyes, and there was no patterns. There was nothing. And suddenly, after a while, thoughts started to appear from the right hand side of my mind. So there was the instant recognition that I was there prior to the thoughts, prior to anything else as well, prior to the colors or anything else. So I was already there in total silence without, you know, any judgment or anything, just totally there, present. And then thoughts came in, and the reference was the voice in the head, you know. And then I saw Earth. Somehow I saw Earth, and I understood instantly. You know, it was just like a download. That's Earth, and that's where you live as a human being. And I saw skyscrapers, which there weren't any skyscrapers around me, but I saw skyscrapers to understand that people lived in like really condensed conditions to be able to fit in. And I had like, I think the number 7 billion in my awareness as a number, roughly, you know. And so I knew there was a lot of people on this planet. And then the question arose: does each one of these people also have a voice in their head? And the answer was yes, they all have a voice in their head. And then the next question that arose was, I say arose because I don't know where it came from. It wasn't really Gabriel who asked that question, but it was maybe a natural impulse to know that if I didn't exist, would those 7 billion people still be there? And the understanding was no, they wouldn't be there if you didn't exist. And that's not, of course, Gabrielle as a person, but I must have been asking it from like the awareness level, and basically
Mm.
saying without that, those people wouldn't be there either. It needs you, or you as awareness of the self, for them to be there. And suddenly my vision switched to, you know, dark space, and I saw what I would now call asteroid belts, just rock formations, you know, in space. And then I wondered, um, if I wasn't here, would the rock formations be here? And again, the answer was no, it wouldn't be here, because who would it be here for? It needs you for them to exist for something. Who would they exist for? But the you, of course, is not the egoic you. It's the awareness, the presence. So, and I know from physics in physics, I have a feeling that they're looking for the smallest particle in the universe, and I think they've gotten to the pentaquark at some point. And apparently, the pentaquark this particle can exist at the opposite ends of the universe simultaneously. And it can be a pear or it can be an apple. And then they asked, what determines if the pentaquark is a pear or an apple? And the answer was the observer.
Mm.
So then I realized, that experience that I had a little kid, like science is kind of backing it up in some way with the pentaquark, or at least, you know, I'm not sure if they've got proof of it, but that's kind of and I had that experience as a child, so it kind of made sense. So the area of interest for me is that, because that is what is there first, the
Yeah.
primal. And I think that while we are here in this body, the opportunity is to recognize that. For some reason, we need to recognize that in the body. I'm not sure why that is, but we need to recognize it as a human being. Uh, to realize our true nature as a human being, which I'm not sure how easy that is, because the true nature is beyond the human being. But
Mm.
that's kind of my area of interest. So people like Nisargadatta Maharaj, I really enjoy. I enjoy reading pointers. I can look at a pointer from him and it will suddenly snap me to a deep contemplative state, and like an openness or an expansion of the deeper reality. So
Mm.
that is my primary focus, is knowing myself, like the term knowing myself, like knowing my true self, the primary self. And then the trauma work, the somatic work, is something that is showing up by itself, like without me having an actual interest in it, but it's kind of poking at me and kind of saying, hey, um, this is, you got to pay attention to this too, to the physical body, the physical structure, but probably more the energetic body, which is, I would say that's the pure consciousness, right? The physical body, the bones, the muscles are just, I think someone said, if there was no life in it, it would just be a carcass. And that image stuck in my head. All right, it's the muscles are a carcass. It needs life. It needs consciousness. It needs, that to give it life. So they're not separate. I guess, you can't separate the body and the energy from anything. It has to be included. But it's more like knocking on my door rather than me knocking on its door. Uh, I'm
Mm.
I'm I'm knocking on the door of awareness, and in the non-dualistic space.
Yeah.
Non-dualistic, I think, for listeners, means not two, I think, essentially. So there is not two realities, really, just the one reality manifesting as the many. That's how I loosely understand it in my own
Mm.
personal space. But yeah, that's my personal venture in life, and that's where I go to a lot. But
Mm.
then the other aspect is really knocking and presenting itself to me. So, and it's quite beautiful as well.
Mm.
So I'm very lucky. I consider myself lucky, because in a way, I'm a yogi as well. I end up exploring different forms of movement that the body naturally is capable of doing through through this energy. So the
Mm.
shaking is just one of the movements. There's as an example, there's this uh, natural flow, which was the postural realignment. It's just more like a wave that happens through the body rather than a tremor. So it's more like a wave, a gentle wave that kind of sort of realigns the body. There's also stretching, which is happens in the body. There is also something that I think now people are calling pandiculation. And pandiculation is actually a squeezing of the muscles rather than contracting out of fear, because we have contraction too. So that's one of the movements, but that's a fearful contraction. Pandiculation is more like the heart would sort of squeeze to promote blood flow, right? So pandiculation is like a contraction that promotes life, and it's a joyous, and it's a very pleasurable sort of contraction in the body versus a tight contraction that is painful. And I think that they all have their own purpose. I feel like the tremors predominantly are there to release tension. The stretching is predominantly there for expansion. I think the pandiculation is predominantly there for alchemy, to transmute energy, right? That's my sense at the moment. This is not fact, but it's just my own experience.
Mm.
And then we can experience mudras as well, spontaneous mudras with hand gestures or hand movements, which I think have nothing to do with necessarily anything to do with healing or the body itself. It's more like about the really something totally mystical. So these movements, to answer your question, these movements are kind of presenting themselves to me in meditation, in the state of open awareness. So I think TRE is beautiful like that, because The movement is already there, but we're suppressing it.
Yeah.
And it's just education initially. When the mind is at peace and it understands that, then it can let go, and then we can experience consciousness maybe on a fuller level, on a truer
Mm.
level.
Mm. Yeah, maybe shift as well our collective understanding or lack thereof of what that shaking is. I was talking to a friend who used to be a AMBO, and she said, "Oh, I wish I understood what shaking was when I was an ambulance officer because we used to just go up to people and tell them to calm down and pacify them when they were shaking." She's like, "They would shake all the time. Of course they would. And now I understand what shaking is, and I regret doing that." You know, like if our baseline understanding was a little bit different, we would have a different way of placing that movement or that phenomena in our society.
Yeah, I mean, the shaking is actually a really good indication that the person is out of danger, because the body will only shake. This is from TRE understanding, when it is safe to do so. So
Mm,
if there is imminent danger to the individual, there's not going to be any shaking, right? Because they need to react to the environment around them, either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So that's the natural response of the autonomic nervous system, and
yeah.
it picks up its natural environment and it responds to it. But it also picks up when it's the danger's gone. So say, for example, the individual has had a car accident. They are no longer in danger from other cars, let's say, right? They're in trouble because, they're injured. So of course that's not over, but they are no longer under any threat. So then the body kind of says, well, I got to release this, extra adrenaline or extra stress in the body because it's no longer needed. There's no more threat available. So when an ambulance person sees that, they should know, okay, well, the nervous system's working, it's doing its job, and this person is safe. Perfect. So now the ambulance person can relax and do their job. Instead of pacifying, they can still be there for the person and support them. Say, hey, look, you're okay. You're going through shock. Your body's responding perfectly. It's doing exactly what it's meant to do. So they're in good. They're actually in good hands. That's an
Mm,
indication that they still need medication, and they need, they've obviously been in a car accident, or they need that kind of level
yeah.
of support. But on the nervous system level, it's wow, it's working. You'd be concerned if it wasn't working, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's like, I think if a person ever does that, they should be grateful that the ambulance drivers are there and the shaking mechanism is there. It means okay, they're on the way to recovery already, and that's how quickly the body goes to recovery instantly.
Mm, mm,
Yeah,
mm.
it's so efficient. I think that's the beauty of the body. It doesn't wait for tomorrow. It's extremely effective, extremely efficient, and it doesn't ask any questions. Unfortunately, we get in the way
Yeah.
through lack of understanding. So I kind of say
Yeah.
animals, they don't have that option. An animal will just shake as soon as they evaded, danger. The animal will go through the shaking process. So they kind of don't have an option. Beautiful, but we've had options because of our mind, of our thinking mind, and we've blocked it. And now I say, because of our thinking minds, we've been able to reopen it and go even deeper. Because initially the shake maybe is just there for trauma, but we can go into the deeper aspects of the shaking, which is really for spiritual unfoldment and evolution. I feel,
Mm,
it is
mm.
frequency, right? So shaking is
Yeah.
frequency. So what's doing that consciousness? It's
Yeah.
basically vibing. We can call it vibing. Who
Yeah.
doesn't want to vibe? I should call them vibing sessions, Sarah. No one say
Yes, it'll sell
who,
out.
who wants to vibe with me, do a couple of group sessions.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I love the reframe you've put on it of like what was in the way for humans and now what's the portal that we can leverage with our increased mental capacity to really understand and be open and available to the depths that this practice has to offer us.
Yeah, and animals don't have that option, unfortunately, for them. But we do. So I think as human beings, there's Dr. David Baselli, who is the founder of TRE. There's Dr. Keith Motes, the founder of Shaking Medicine. There's a practice in Japan. So I think it's called Seitai Katsugen Undo, which also brings about this process in a beautiful way. So hopefully, with these kind of practices out there, and there's of course the Ratu Bagus shaking as well,
Yeah,
you
the
know, from
biodynamic shaking.
and it's so beautiful, you know, like initially I didn't know there was anyone out there, but now there are so many practices that embody this sort of neurogenic movement and breath work. A lot of breath work practitioners I've seen, you know, they're fully aware of the vibration in the body of the shaking mechanism, and they work with it. They understand what it is. So the more people out there that kind of bring it on and work with it, the better. You know, our consciousness will really, really grow with that.
Mm, mm,
And it's a process of uh, it's an intimate process with ourselves, but also with another human being. So it kind of opens us up to our own felt sense, our own intuition, and our own connection with another human being. So I think we become deeper human beings on that level.
mm, mm. Yeah, what are some unfoldings that, and I'm sure there's a whole plethora and a broad spectrum, but so some of the unfoldings you've seen participants have when they've undertaken this kind of process.
I have felt this my whole life. And they feel when they practice TRE, they feel like they're basically home in their body, home where it's comfortable, home where it's safe, because
Mm,
it is the felt sense of safety. Actually, if you look at it properly, I think a lot of people look at it from a trauma perspective. What's going to come up for me? What can I get rid of? But
yeah.
really, if you've activated the tremors, you've actually gotten in touch with the felt sense of safety. Enjoy it, you know, and that, I think for me, that is key. It means right now I am safe. How many times, and you can feel safe because your body's telling you, hey, if it wasn't safe, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be so
Yeah.
relaxed to actually let go. So yeah, a lot of people say that, you know, it feels like they're finally home in their body. They're finally connecting with something, an instinct or an intuition that, you know,
Mm,
that they haven't been able to explain before or get into, and now they have a way of doing that. Uh,
mm,
but it goes deep. It goes into feeling peaceful, feeling calm, feeling clear, gaining insights into different aspects of their life. And the deepest I feel is when people experience bliss. You know, so I've had a few people experiencing bliss, and you know, I don't always experience that. So to see someone coming on their first session and you ask them how are you and they say blissful, I just bliss all over. And I think that is the deepest layer of the energetic body. You know, bliss is so it means they've gone all the way down to their true nature uh, in such a simple, easy process. I don't want to sell it as such because you know I don't want to call it, hey, come and experience bliss, because every person's going to respond differently. But
sure.
hey, that
Yeah.
is available, and that's where the process can take us. And bliss and people can even experience all like an orgasmic feel to it as well. And
Mm,
essentially, it's a very beautiful vibration. And again, if we don't look at it always from a trauma perspective, and we kind of look what's actually the sensation in the body right now, it is, you know, more blissful. You can get in touch with that blissfulness and that orgasmicness of it
mm,
all, you know, because it's life coming back online. So I say, hey, if you've experienced calmness and that, hey, TRE is a practice that you actually are meant to take home and practice a second day for no more than 15 minutes, because it takes a little bit of time to integrate. But essentially, this is a practice that you can get into for the rest of your life. So you're buying yourself a lifetime ticket here into something that, yes, can release tension, trauma. It can help people with neurological disorders with the right support. With athletes, it puts athletes into recovery mode. So very good once you've done gym or you know you've played sport, because literally the nervous system goes into recovery mode. So very good for the muscles and the nervous system to yeah, to recover. And then at the other end, I say at the other end of the scale, it's very good for meditation and going to the deeper states of consciousness and getting into the deeper layers of, yeah, eventually wisdom and then eventually bliss.
mm. Wow. Has a lot to offer.
Yeah, and it's a very simple practice, like, and the name, I think the name itself doesn't speak of that.
Yeah.
Trauma and tension release exercises doesn't speak of the depth of clarity and the blissfulness, the orgasmicness. It can be very sensual, but it can be very intimate as well because essentially you're getting in touch with yourself, right? It's not somebody else doing the tremoring for you. It's not another entity or the practitioner or some machine or some drug doing it. Essentially, whenever you tremor, you are getting in touch with a deeper aspect of yourself. So it's like get to know yourself that way.
Mm.
A non-verbal self, of course, non-cognitive verbal self, but nonetheless, it's a very, very powerful. So yeah, that's why I do it, I guess, is because it is showing me a deeper aspect of myself. And I'm in the business of finding myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And such a deep spectrum to explore, ongoing, right?
It is. I started maybe 12 years ago, and today I shake more than ever. So I have micro shakes throughout the day. I can be in a bus stop. I hope there's not going to be cameras now, like looking at me everywhere, trying to my
There's the
movements. But
shaking guy.
there's the shaking eye in the forest. Wherever I am, I'm kind of. It's more like I think initially people engage with the tremor mechanism when they feel like it. Oh, I'm feeling a bit tired or I'm feeling a bit upset or stressed. So they start engaging with it. But after a while, it starts engaging with you. It starts
Mm.
calling you, right? So you don't have to turn on the shaking process. It's more like, hey, it's here. Are you up for it? Yeah, I am. Okay, and off it goes.
Interesting. Was
Yeah.
that a gradual sort of change for you?
Interesting question. So I'm going to say for the first 7 years, it only happened during meditation.
Mm.
Having said that, even in the beginning, I was shaking on the street because I was in partly meditating. I was partly switching off the cognitive process. Um, but I think once I started, when I came across TRE, then I started becoming involved with it and looking deeper into it. So then, yeah, like I mentioned before, I started trying out different positions and thinking, oh my God, it works in this position and it works in that position. And it can go in the wrist, for example, or in the forearms or in any part of the body. And it can happen in all these different situations. I can shake while I'm having a chat to somebody and they don't really know because I'm allowing the internal process to happen. And most people have a little bit of a sway anyway when they talk or a little bit of a movement. And I'm just allowing for that to happen. So
Mm.
yeah, it's more like it is gradual, and maybe it's a good thing that it's gradual for me, because it's gently built up that way. And maybe at some point it'll just happen more and more and more and more. But it's not just the shaking, I have to say, it's the stretching as well. So they kind of I'm discovering that these other movements are really important too. The stretching, the pandiculation, and the spinal flow or the waves in the body as well. They're all complementary and they all have a purpose and they all come from the same source. So it's that energy, that intelligence that has all these different ways of actually expressing itself.
Mm.
Pulsing is one of them as well. So sometimes my hand will actually pulse. It's not a tremor or different parts of my body. So that you could say it's a tremor in a way, but it's actually not quite. It's slightly different. And it's important to know that those movements are available because then you can relax and let go into it. But you can explore them too. I literally can tune in now. I can say, hey, I want to see what pandiculation wants to happen in my body now. And then suddenly different parts of my abdomen or my muscles will start, contracting and pandiculating, showing me what's possible. So it's really, I can tune into it as well and say, I want this, I want stretching, turn it on. And suddenly, so now my arms are stretching and I can feel it and they have their own flow. So it's almost like after a while, you can just tune into it instantly and off it goes. It's a recognition. Yes, thank you.
Mm.
We're not meant to be static. We're vibratory beings. And I think staticness is not good for us. The body naturally wants to move, not in a forceful way. We force it. We go to work when we shouldn't. We lift more weights than we should. We run further than we should, and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But outside of that, I think the body loves to move like effortlessly, like, just to, I think it's Wu Wei, the effortless effort, you know, and it loves doing that because um, it's a constant process. A beautiful practice out there that I also like because it has this kind of movement is called continuum, where you can activate the movement in the body by humming. So in humming, actually, the vibration of humming calms the nervous system, and then the body starts moving gently, right? But I love the word continuum because that's one of the realizations I had over the years. This is a continuous process. It's not something that you just turn on here and there, and then if you realize it's a continuous process, it's available to you when you're walking, or when you're running, or when you're sitting still, or when you're swimming. Because the process never kind of leaves you. So then you can really open up to that. Life never
Mm.
stands still, you know?
Yeah, yeah, ever dynamic. Gabe, I'm sure you've got many answers to this question, but I'm just going to say it. What's something that you wish our listeners knew that you haven't shared already?
That's a beautiful question. I think you had that in the form, and I had to think about that. There are so many things, but
Yeah.
for me, I think the most important thing for me personally is to know that there is something more than surface level reality, right? And I think that that movement, or that question or curiosity opens up everything else. Because if,
Mm.
if an individual doesn't have that, if an individual just thinks this is it, uh, this is how life is, this is how it operates, there's nothing else to it, then they can't really open up to anything else. They can't open up to meditation. They can't open up to this beautiful movement. They can't open up to healing of any kind, right? Can't open up to insights, wisdom, and anything like that. So I feel I was fortunate because of those experiences as a child. I don't know where those experiences came from. Obviously, I didn't seek them. They just came to me. So I'm blessed in that way. Sometimes it's a curse, but I think mostly it's a blessing. um, and maybe some people don't have that curiosity to ask. And I think that's the crux of spirituality, is to look deeper than surface level. So a scientist to me is a spiritual person in that sense, because a scientist is trying to understand, molecules and how things work on a deeper level to surface reality. And mathematicians can have that aspect to them as well. But here it's really understanding reality of yourself on deeper than surface reality. And what
Mm.
scientists understand out there of the universe is actually within us. So we are the actual laboratory, in a way, the living laboratory. So whatever they discover about the universe is true of us as well. And it's about living that and experiencing and exploring that live.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your energy and your very wise and grounded insights as well.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. I mean, it's a reflection of you.